All right, dude, so we got some fan questions for a Q&A. Promised everyone that we would do a Q&A, and they had some really good questions. So are you cool with us going through some of those?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so one question from Adam Ray. He wants to know, my question would be, how do you avoid injury, and have you had any problems in the past?
And yeah, that is a great question. How do I avoid injury? I do a lot of stretching before we play now. And for most of the beginning of my career, I never stretched, I never warmed up. I just didn't think I needed to. And, one day on tour, probably about 3 years ago now, my forearms and my wrists just tightened up every night while we were playing. And it honestly became incredibly painful to play. And, I looked into it and I did a lot of things to help that. So yeah, I started stretching before every show, and I started playing with some smaller sticks. And, I'm good now, thankfully, injury free and feeling good every night on tour. But yeah, that's an important thing for sure. Make sure you stretch and, keep yourself loose and keep yourself in shape.
Someone asked, how has moving to Music City changed the way you approach the drums with so many talented musicians in the nearby area?
Wow, that is a great question too.
Yeah.
Moving to Nashville, man, one of the most beneficial things about moving to Nashville was being surrounded by incredible musicians everywhere. And, for me, specifically drummers, I've met so many drummers here who are just light years ahead of me, and playing with those guys and, just hanging out with them and learning from them has been incredibly helpful. And the way it's changed how I play, it's made me appreciate more simple musical drumming, just playing with feel and playing a nice groove and not overplaying. I think living here has kind of moved me more towards that style of playing.
Derek asks, how can I get my plane out there if I can't afford to get good equipment? He says he's a drummer and he's just having trouble getting some solid equipment.
Yeah, that's a good question too. And I like that question because I think it addresses a common misconception that you need mics and a nice drum set and nice cymbals, not only to improve as a player, but to get people's attention, which I don't think that's the case at all. I think, the way the world is right now, so many drummers have mics and make YouTube videos and everything, so it's kind of intimidating to the people who maybe can't afford that stuff. But you definitely don't need that. You just need to take a lot of time to work on your playing and, make yourself the best drummer you possibly can. And even if you can just prop up your phone and post some videos here and there, you can absolutely meet people that way. And, that alone can give people a good idea of who you are as a drummer and what you could possibly bring to the table. Having nice equipment is obviously a luxury and it's nice, but it's definitely not a necessity.
James wants to know, what does your practice routine look like?
Yeah, at home, I play drums a lot, but I wouldn't really call what I'm doing most of the time practice. Not that I don't practice at all anymore, but usually I'm just coming down here to either record on a song for somebody, or if I'm just trying to have a good time, maybe play along to some records that I like. But as far as my practice routine goes, I wouldn't say I really have a routine. Depending on when you talk to me, there may be different things that I'm working on and trying to improve, and that would dictate what I'm practicing at that time. But I don't have a routine that I do every day or anything like that.
Someone wants to know if you have a saying like Caleb records on the Beartooth albums, since you don't technically record for the album.
Right. Yeah, so Caleb writes and records all the music, and Caleb is very open with all of us, and he sends us music while he's writing it and, likes to get our opinion on it and everything like that. So yeah, I don't write anything for the Beartooth albums and I don't record on them, but yeah, I guess we definitely have a little bit of input here and there, but for the most part, man, I just let Caleb do his thing, and then, when it comes to playing the live show, he lets me do my thing. So
An interesting one that I've never even asked you is, how often do you change your drum heads?
At home, I pretty much never change my drum heads. Like, these have been on this kit for probably close to a year now. I like the sound of old beaten up drum heads, and to be honest with you, if you play with decent technique, you're not going to pit the heads and dent them or anything like that. So, you know, they sound good for quite a while. On tour, I'd say I change my heads probably every 5 shows. And then snare drum we change probably every 3 shows or so. Just because on tour we don't want to, you know, I'm hitting a lot harder and we don't want to deal with the risk of potentially breaking a head on tour.
Someone asked, what was the hardest moment in your drumming career?
There was a short period when I had quit being as an Ocean, which was the first professional music setting I was really in, and before I had gotten called by Beartooth, where I didn't really know what I was going to do next, and I had bouts of feeling unsure, and if somebody was going to call me again, or if that was pretty much it for me playing music for a living. I would say that was the hardest time I've had in my career for sure. But even then, I stayed confident and I stayed pretty positive that something would come around. But it's definitely tough when you're in between gigs.
If you had to play for one other band in the world, who would you play for?
Foo Fighters. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of people's dream gig. Playing for Foo Fighters would be awesome.
Let's see here. What's your favorite stack combo?
That's a good question. I really like doing the 14-inch trash former with a 10-inch EFX splash on top. The Zildjian trash formers are super cool. Any stack involving those is going to be great.
Will we ever see a Tim Cayem drum cam video?
I hope so. We all want it. Give the people what they want.
Favorite bass drum size? That's a good question.
That's a great question. 22 by 14, what I'm sitting behind right now. Definitely my favorite bass drum size.
And you like evolved too. Like I remember you had freaking huge bass drums.
Yeah, I always had shallow though.
Yeah, always.
They were always shallow, but I used a 26 for a while, which I still love. And on tour I use 24, just because when I'm hitting really hard and playing heavy stuff, a little bit of a bigger kick drum feels better to me for whatever reason. But for sound and overall feel and everything, 22 by 14 is definitely my favorite.
How do you stay motivated to play? That's a good one.
I don't know that, like, there's nothing really particular that I do to stay motivated. I always want to play drums. Like, since the day I started playing 13 years ago, there's just not a day that goes by that I'm like not dying to get behind a drum kit. I just always want to play.
Someone asks, why are larger cymbals the best cymbals?
That's funny to ask me that because I used to be a big advocate for huge cymbals. I used 22, 22, and 24 for a long time. But now I'm using, on tour, I'm using 19, 20, and 21. Because using big cymbals, like, I heard what our mix sounded like at front of house, and it just sounded like muddy and sloppy because I was using huge cymbals and they were all just overpowering each other. So now, yeah, I like to use a 21-inch ride now.
Someone asks, who are your biggest drum influences?
Man, that's a tough question. I'm gonna say Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl is just like the master of hard-hitting rock drumming. I gotta say Aaron Gillespie. You know, I grew up listening to so much of Aaron's playing, and he obviously helped me a lot, taught me a lot. Jimmy Chamberlain, Smashing Pumpkins drummer. Smashing Pumpkins is the first band I ever remember actually like loving on my own, and Jimmy Chamberlain is just an incredible drummer. Man, I'd say Aaron Spears is probably up there. I started watching him when I was pretty young as well, and yeah, he's incredible, and I love his attitude. I love listening to him speak about, you know, the way he views drumming and his career and everything. Yeah, he just seems like a great dude. And then Ilan Rubin. Ilan Rubin is like probably my favorite modern drummer, and I personally think he's the best rock drummer out there right now. And for like the last 10 years, he's just unreal.
Someone asks, any plugins you use to EQ those beefy drums?
Yeah, I actually, when you hear my drums on my Instagram videos and stuff, they're usually pretty raw. But I run everything through a Neve 1073. So I run all the drums through a Neve 1073 preamp. And I mean, occasionally there'll be some compression, but not much EQ going on, not too many plugins. I mean, it's pretty much what you're hearing is what they actually sound like.
Someone wants to know, and this is an interesting one because it's kind of vague, but what are your 3 best tips to improve your drumming? It could be exercises, it could be maybe a mental state or something.
Yeah, like that. I'll try to make it general like that, because that's gonna vary from person to person. But 3 tips, I guess I'll try to go with 3 things that I wish someone had told me when I was younger.
Yeah, that's good.
Practice to a click, number 1. A lot of people don't do that, or they don't start doing it until they're already like pretty developed. And I think that should be one of the first skills you develop. Be yourself, be confident, you know, and you know, just do what you do. Do your thing. Don't worry about doing what's cool at the time or impressing other people. Play how you want to play. And what's a 3rd tip? Take care of yourself physically. Drumming is like playing a sport. It's like being an athlete. And if you don't take care of yourself, you're gonna get injured. So stretch, you know, find some warming up that works for you, and try to learn how to play in a way that you're not gonna injure yourself, you know? Hit hard, have fun, play with emotion, but don't hurt yourself.
Someone asked, what was it like being a touring musician at a young age?
Man, touring at 17, I mean, I really started touring when I was 15, and then I started touring internationally at 17. It was tough, man. You know, a lot of pros and cons. I mean, it was really cool, and it's awesome to get an early start, you know, kind of get an early jump on my career, but it was tough. You know, I don't feel like I was really ready to be out there on my own, and, you know, I went from living at home with my dad and going to high school to like flying to Europe with a bunch of guys that I had just met and being over there for months at a time. So it was really cool, and I wouldn't trade that experience for anything, but at the time it was tough. It was very tough.
Someone asked, favorite Shed track?
I'm gonna go September, Earth, Wind and Fire. That's just a great song to play drums along to. Love it.
Someone says, would you rather have to use 1-ply heads for the rest of your life or 7A sticks?
Oh, 1-ply heads. I can make do with 1-ply heads, but if I had to play with 7As, man, I would struggle.
Dream tour lineup.
Oh man. Let's say, is this, okay, dream tour lineup like to play on or to go see?
I think to play.
To play on, okay. And only bands that are still around.
I don't know, let's make it more fun and say ever. Like
Dead or alive?
Yeah, you could choose like a prime
Oh my God.
Queen or a prime Van Halen.
Okay, let's go. Led Zeppelin, Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins, Foo Fighters, and then Beartooth opens the bill.
Someone asks, what are some difference makers between a good drummer and a great drummer?
Man, that's a loaded question. There are a lot of little things that go into that, and you know, I'm still working on a lot of those things myself. I think playing with good feel and playing with control and patience, not overplaying and not just throwing all your tricks out on the table right away, and kind of being able to hold back and leave the people wanting more as opposed to giving them too much. And I think another important thing is being confident in what you do. I think people can feel it and kind of see it when you're unsure of yourself and you're unsure of what you're playing. And I think another thing is, I think just playing with emotion and passion and it sounds corny, but playing with heart and loving what you do. I think people can see that when you play. I think it goes a long way for sure.
I think this is a great question to end on.
Okay.
Most important piece of advice you've ever been given as a drummer by anyone? I mean, this could be something from your dad or a family member.
No, it's from my dad for sure.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of which one of the 1,000 good pieces of advice he's given me is the most important. Man, that's hard to choose from, but when I was really young, I was always trying to be exactly like all these different drummers, and it would change, month to month, or every 6 months there'd be a new drummer I really liked, and I would go and I would set up my drums exactly like him. And one day my dad told me, he was like, stop trying to be just one guy, be yourself, and combine all of those people that you really admire, and use those as influences, but don't try to just be them, because you're not them. Be you, and combine all that and make your own style. Make your own style that other people are going to want to take from one day. And he probably doesn't even remember saying that to me, but he said that to me probably when I was 11 or 12 years old, and I've never forgotten it. And I've thought about it in so many moments of my career, to just be myself and just do my own thing and just kind of believe that that's going to pan out for me. And so far it has. So yeah, I'll never forget him telling me that.
All right, guys, hope you enjoyed all those questions. Hope you gained some insight from a professional touring musician, from Connor. And thanks for tuning in. This is Cayem Interviews, signing out.
Thanks, guys.